Yo, what's up homies? It's Philip, aka Dr. Vendetta here, bringing you another episode in the Deck series. This episode, Egg Druid. Egg Druid gets its name from the inclusion of Dragon's Egg and Nerubian Egg in the deck, which are powerful buff targets for Druid's strong targeted and full board buffs. Egg Druid has been around for a while, but it has gained a lot of steam recently, notably with JackieChan HS piloting it to Legend on the first day of the December season, as well as him getting #1 Legend on the European servers towards the end of the December season. Egg Druid got slightly more versatile with the addition of Sir Finley from League of Explorers, but its rise has mainly been due to its great spot in the meta. With Combo Druid and Secret Paladin being so popular at the moment, Egg Druid is one of the few decks that can stifle their early game while still providing resiliency. I'm not one to mess with a good thing, so the deck list I've been playing is the one that JackieChan came up with, and I've been having some strong early season results. The goal of the deck is to play a bunch of minions early, and then use Savage Roar and Power of the Wild in Leader of the Pack mode to push damage into face and provide massive tempo swings. This playstyle is especially effective in the current meta, as many current top decks rely on board control to win, and Egg Druid can out early game them all. Now that I've covered the deck's basic goals, let's break the cards down one by one. The cards we are most trying to take advantage of in this deck are Power of the Wild, Savage Roar, and Soul of the Forest. Power of the Wild is this deck's bread and butter. Getting the +1/+1 buff off on all minions on turn 3 to 5 means as much as 5/5 in stats with charge, sometimes more, as well as an increased board resiliency and a strong setup for our other board buffs. Savage Roar is similar to Power of the Wild in many ways, but definitely more focused towards pushing damage into face and board clears the turn it is played, notably when facing decks with early game pressure. It is a great way to finish the game, and although it is obviously more desirable to kill the opponent the turn it is played, it can be effectively used to chunk the opponent down to set up for lethal and following turns. This is especially important when your board is susceptible to being cleared. Don't be too keen on keeping Savage Roar as a finisher, because it can also have great effect clearing minions in the early game. Unlike Combo Druid, our deck has many Savage Roar-like effects, so it isn't necessary to keep Savage Roar in hand, as against early game decks like Secret Paladin and Aggro Shaman, a strong early Savage Roar clear can be a death sentence. Soul of the Forest is amazing on a strong board, which in this deck will mean a large amount of minions, but not necessarily high quality ones. Soul of the Forest is usually a very slow way to get out 4 to 7 2/2 minions, but more importantly, it provides board resiliency against AoE effects and makes full clears nearly impossible in combination with our already sticky minions. This card can also let us maintain board dominance while drawing for cards to finish out the game with our Cult Master and Jeeves draw engine. It is important to remember these 3 cards throughout the video, as Egg Druid is incredibly synergy dependent, and these 3 cards have synergy with the majority of our deck. Now that we've covered the cards that we're trying to take advantage of, let's cover the minions that will let us do so. Our 1-drops consist of Dragon's Egg, Living Roots, Sir Finley Murgleton, and Abusive Sergeant. We play so many 1-drops, as playing the maximum number of minions possible early game is key to dominating turns 4 through 6 with this deck. Dragon's Egg is part of this deck's namesake, and is one of the strongest targets for Defender of Argus and Mark of the Wild, but interestingly enough, JackieChan told me that he prefers to use Abusive Sergeant Battlecry on other minions, as keeping Dragon's Egg alive allows it to be better used in the late game. Although Dragon's Egg no attack downside is pretty clearly calling for buffs being sent its way, Egg Druid can often use its seemingly non-threatening 0/2 body to great effect, as the opponents will usually leave it on board, making it great for Power of the Wild and Soul of the Forest. As Egg Druid becomes more well known, I'm guessing better players will start killing the Dragon Egg on their own terms to reduce its long-term effect. Living Roots is very strong early game, but it is also amazing played the same turn as Power of the Wild or Soul of the Forest due to providing 2 bodies with so much mana flexibility. Abusive Sergeant can be used to boost our small bodies for larger trades, but is best used on Nerubian Egg. Don't be afraid to play Abusive turn 1, especially on the play, as the Lost Battlecry is worth the added tempo. Sir Finley Murgleton is played as it is another good turn 1 play, and because the Druid Hero power isn't particularly useful with our deck. On turn 1, JackieChan recommends picking Reinforce or Totemic Call, as they work well with our game plan. But if you have minions and lack one of our board buffs, I recommend taking Life Tap. If you play Sir Finley late game, it'll be a lot more situation dependent, but I still find myself taking Life Tap when offered it. Our 2-drop minions are Haunted Creeper, Nerubian Egg, and Echoing Ooze. Haunted Creeper is the 2-drop I find I play most on curve, as it tends to be the most versatile, but consider playing Echoing Ooze if you think you will need the extra attack the turn after, and consider Nerubian if you have a good way to use it. Haunted Creeper is an already high power level card that has great synergy with this deck, but the way we use it in this deck can vary a bit from other decks. When you have a Haunted Creeper on the board and plan to use Power of the Wild or Soul of the Forest to buff your board, make sure to consider whether it will be better to leave Creeper intact, or it will be better to give the Spectral Spiders the buff. The right play varies quite a bit based on board state and what you expect your opponent to have, but usually it will be better to give the Spectral Spiders the buff. Nerubian Egg is the other half of our deck's namesake. As I said before, it's a good target for Mark of the Wild, Defender of Argus, and Abusive Sergeant buffs, but it also benefits as being a hard minion for your opponent to justify clearing. This means it has really good synergy with our full board buffs as well. Equinews has the same 2-body for 1 card advantage as Living Roots, but unlike Living Roots, it also has added synergy when targeted by Defender of Argus and Mark of the Wild. Speaking of Mark of the Wild, it and Power of the Wild can also be played on 2, although with Power of the Wild, your hand has to be very weak for playing it on turn 2 to be the best play. However, Mark of the Wild onto a turn 1 Dragon's Egg or coined out Nerubian Egg can often be the best play, especially against Paladin's Shielded minibot. Mark of the Wild onto Equinews is also one of the sickest yet simple plays this deck has. Our only 3-drop minion is Mounted Raptor, which is just a solid minion with good deck synergy due to its resiliency. Because we only have 1 3-drop, that turn is often a 2-drop 1-drop turn, or the turn we use coin on. Savage Roar can also be played well on 3, if it helps us trade up against aggro decks. Defender of Argus and our single Keeper of the Grove are our 2 non-draw engine 4-drops. Defender is one of our strongest plays against aggro decks, as it is really nice for getting minions out of the range of AoE, notably Holy Nova, Consecration, and Swipe. If Egg Druid becomes popular, I'm guessing more Secret Paladins will start to run Consecration, but right now it's safe to assume that they do not have it on turn 4. Keeper of the Grove is not a 2-up because it makes our draws too clunky, and because in our deck it is not as key to success against aggro as it is for other druids. It is definitely situationally strong, for instance when silencing Sledge Belcher, but if you have no other plays on turn 4, it can be used purely to strengthen the board presence preceding a board buff turn, or to clear out a card for Jeeves to replace. Speaking of Jeeves, the last 2 minions in our deck are Jeeves and Cultmaster. Jeeves is pretty insane in our deck, most notably when we are able to intervate out most of our early game plays, and then draw 2 to 3 cards with Jeeves pretty early. Jackie Chan mentioned that Jeeves is a good taunt target against aggro decks, as they will be incentivized to kill it rather than get the buff, and I definitely agree with him there. I know Jeeves is another fringe card that seems like it is too weak for constructed, but in this deck it's a staple. Cultmaster is a 1-of, partially because drawing 4-drops makes our deck a little bit more clunky, but also because it is better when we are ahead on board, which makes it a bit more of a win more card. However, it can sometimes be the difference between running out of steam and losing against decks that are starting to stabilize, so I think playing 1 is the right number. Last but not least, Innervate is a great card for establishing a great board state early on, and it can also be used to make a big Soul of the Forest or Power of the Wild play a turn early. It can be a weak draw in the late game, but it can always be played for no effect to cycle with Jeeves. Now that I've covered all the cards, I'll briefly restate the game plan and give a short mulligan guide. The way we win is by establishing board presence and controlling the opponent's board for the first few turns. Then we use Power of the Wild or Soul of the Forest to strengthen our board of mini minions. After that, we use Savage Roar to finish or just push damage into face while controlling any manageable threats our opponent has. We always want to have a strong board presence, but if our presence dwindles, we can use Jeeves or Cultmaster to refuel our hand. The way we lose is by completely losing all board presence, as we have no single turn burst or value minions to fall back on. For mulligans, we are always mulliganing for 1 and 2 drops to establish good board presence. Always keep 1 Innervate if you get it, but mulligan a second copy. Usually get rid of your board buff cards, although Power of the Wild can be kept with an exceptionally strong hand. Jackie Chan HS said it best with, anything that would be a great top deck when you have board control, get rid of. Our deck is very synergy dependent, so unfortunately I can't recommend tech cards this week, as we are focusing on our own game plan more than targeting our opponents. Thanks for watching everyone, and good luck playing Egg Druid. If you want to get more in-depth matchup guides and get a better insight on the deck, I recommend checking out Jackie Chan HS's well-written and thorough guide on Hearthpwn, as well as reading his Reddit post where people discuss his deck. All of these links are in the description. Once again, thanks for watching everybody. If you liked the video, please like it. If you subscribe, that'll really make my day. Put any comments in the description on tips on how I can make these videos better. And a special thanks to Jackie Chan HS. He gave me a few pointers and made sure I was on the right path when making this video. Once again, guys, this deck is great. I made it to a rank 3 on the 3rd day of the season. I switched to Zoo for the rest of my Legend climb, which I'm finishing up right now. But this deck is great, and I think if you play it, you'll see great success. And it's a really fast deck. I had got like 100 wins in like 3 days. I know I played a ton, but it was still insane. I mean, it was like averaging like 4 or 5 minute games. Crazy. All right, well, good luck everyone, and thanks for watching. See you next week.